Call a meeting of the Community Police Review Board to order on Tuesday, November 14th at 5:30 PM. We get a roll call?
Yes. Downing,
Here.
Hobart,
Here.
Jensen,
Here.
McConnell,
Here.
Meckes,
Here.
Remington, and Townsend.
Good, all right. Item number 2, consent calendar. Consider a motion to adopt the consent calendar as presented or amended.
So move.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? No discussion?
Okay,
Okay.
participants. There we go.
Need to go on to public comment on the consent calendar.
Yes, but there is nobody there.
Gentleman behind you?
For the consent calendar, do you have anything? Consent calendar is like minutes and, so what you're, I
Some
think what you're
policies
here
and
for
courses.
is under,
Old business.
it might be under new
Here,
business.
I've got a sheet.
It's actually under new business, but it should be old business, but yeah. So, okay,
We good?
yes.
Well, is it old business or new business?
Well, that's a good question. I suppose it should have been old.
No, I think it's new business.
Oh, that's right,
Because it was
because-
brought up last time.
That's right.
Last time,
It's
but
new-
come
it's
to
new
this time.
business.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
new business.
Yeah, this is
Because,
just,
yeah, because when you brought it up and we couldn't answer it, so we asked to put it on new business for this month. So it'll, yeah. Okay,
all right.
okay, so I will do a roll call again here.
We need another roll call?
Yes. And this is just approving the consent calendar.
Yeah, this is either aye or nay. Go ahead.
Okay, so Hobart,
Here.
not here.
Oh.
You're
Aye,
approving the
right here.
consent
Yep.
calendar.
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
McConnell,
Yes.
Meckes,
Yeah.
Townsend.
What are we doing?
Oh, sorry, we are approving the consent calendar, so the minutes and all of the reports that we
Okay.
received from the police
Yes.
department. And Downing.
Yes.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I just wanted to know that I won't be able to attend. I don't want to interfere with anybody's date, but I won't be able to attend on December 12th.
I don't think we're to the calendar.
We're not to the
yet, or
calendar
We're not to
yet.
the calendar yet, so
That comes
that's
up.
still out further down.
Uh,
Okay, item number 3, new business. So just a reminder for everybody, we can only discuss new business items that are on the agenda.
Do we have to accept the minutes first?
We
Oh,
We
did.
already did.
We already did.
Okay.
That was the consent calendar.
Oh, that was the consent calendar.
Yeah.
That's why
Yes.
I missed. Oh, I missed it. Well, now that it was, I wanted to make some change to the minutes if it's not too late.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Can we go
I
back
think you can
once?
make a motion to reconsider.
A motion to reconsider. The
okay.
motion to reconsider has to pass, and then I can make.
Yes.
Yeah.
Second.
Thank you.
Got a motion and a second? We don't need to do roll call, do we? We just do-
We could do by voice.
We'll have to do a recall after it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can go, you have a change to the minutes, you said?
You
What
still
are
have to have
we
a vote on his motion.
Yeah,
to
that was
reconsider.
my
Okay.
question.
Okay,
If
sorry.
it's, okay.
Go ahead.
I don't think it has to be
That's my question.
roll call though. I think you can do a voice
I,
vote.
voice.
that's what that's what my question was, is
So all those
aye or
in
nay.
favor?
Yeah.
So
Okay, all in
you-
favor?
Aye.
All right.
Anybody opposed? All right, go ahead.
Okay, the change I would like to offer is, on page 2, it said that make us abstain to pending proposed changes to the process to be discussed at the November meeting, and because he said he was on the nominating committee.
That's not what you meant.
Yeah, so I'd like to add that, and that is important to me because when we do consider some changes, I'd like to make the change that people on the nominating committee cannot nominate themselves. but that's
Okay.
not,
But did,
so the only thing I'm asking to do is to say that I also said because
just
I
want
was
that
on the
added
nominating
into-
committee.
okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
okay, thank you for clarifying that, because I wasn't
Okay.
sure what you were referring to.
Okay, I will update that on those minutes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Could I have a motion to accept the minutes and the consent calendar as amended?
So, well,
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to keep up here.
I think we had a motion in 3 seconds.
And I'm sorry,
Thank you for
was,
clarifying.
Ricky, did you second that?
No, it was,
It wasn't me.
I made the motion.
Or,
He made, Orwell made the motion, Jerry, Ricky, and Saul all said second. So
okey
you bet.
dokey. Well,
There you go.
We're gonna say Saul. Okay. Do I do a roll call?
I'm getting there. Hang on a minute, I'm doing the same thing. All right, item number 3, new business. Again, going back to the, if you can only discuss the items listed under new business. So, first one we have listed is a discussion on ICPD policy regarding the use of facial recognition technology. I'm not sure who asked to have that put on the agenda. Okay,
Gentleman back
that was
there.
you, sir. Okay. So, Chief, can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure, we fall under the camera use policy of the cities, and the city doesn't address that one way or another, but we don't use it. We
Okay.
don't. And I think it came up in light of the recent camera installations downtown. That's been a long-term project. It was, I think, budgeted even before I arrived 3 years ago. They're doing it now. It's still not active yet. Some of the cameras obviously are up. But we don't have the feed to that. But the city has many cameras around town, and I think you mentioned it, I wasn't here last meeting, I apologize. I think you mentioned it, that typically in the downtown, especially in the Ped Mall, we'd rely on business cameras, and that's why the thought was to put up city cameras. We have city cameras in other places. University has a pretty vast camera system, but they don't do any sort of AI or any type of facial recognition. It's just, if we use the camera systems, it's typically after the fact looking for, and it's just manual looking for something. A lot of times we'll be looking for a car that passed by or something like that.
So you're saying, may I speak?
yeah.
Oh, so you're saying that the police department has no policy concerning facial recognition?
No.
I mean, you're saying,
That addresses facial recognition
Yeah.
specifically? No.
oh, okay. Well, I have some other questions about how the cameras were being used. I was curious as to whether the police department had access to the footage captured on the cameras.
Yes, certain members of the police department do. Our investigative section does, the people who work the front desk, we call them station masters, and supervisors do.
And these are cameras that may be operated and owned by businesses.
No, those privately owned ones, we would have to request that, and they would have to voluntarily give it to us. We also do Ring cameras, the doorbell cameras and things like that. They have a program where people can voluntarily give a mechanism in which they can share it, but that's up to them, and we don't have access to it unless it's shared with us.
Well, what about the city-owned cameras? Are they just running all the time? I mean, I don't,
It depends on the camera. Some of them are motion activated, and then others are running all the time.
and if they're running all the time, who reviews the material?
No one does unless there's a reason to. Most of the cameras on the city are not the police departments or the transportation department. They're up on stoplights and things like that. They use it for monitoring traffic or whatever. But if we have a reason to look at them and say there was a crime in the area, sometimes the detectives will look at it. And they have a retention period that's not maintained by us, it's maintained by the IT department.
The IT department maintains,
Any data, any data storage, especially camera data storage, would be maintained by them. Evidentiary data storage, we would maintain with
so questions about that should be directed to IT people.
IT. Sure, yes.
Can someone tell me who, is that a department within the city?
Yes.
And I-
Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. Part of my concern was all the controversy about facial recognition and over and over again proving how inaccurate it is. And so just kind of keeping track of whether Iowa City has fallen into that rabbit hole.
Right.
Not yet.
No, no, for the concerns you just mentioned, I'm well aware of those concerns.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, second item, discussion of the CPRB nominating process. So that was yours? Yes, have put on the,
Yeah, so
okay.
I'm proposing that members of the nominating committee not nominate themselves. And I'm also proposing that the nominating committee requests a paragraph or so from people interested in becoming chairs or vice chairs to write why they want to be in those positions, so that the rest of the members have an idea what. And then that would just be a blurb, background. When we do come to the meeting for the formal nomination, the nominees can also speak for themselves.
I don't disagree personally that we need to potentially put some things in place for the nominating committee. I think the last couple of years, it's been a little bit,
Hodgepodge?
yeah. Because last year it was, this year, it was a little bit. So I think some overall guidelines for the committee itself, I don't disagree with what you shared, but I think the nominating committee, one, could be who's the nominating committee, how many members, is it more than one? What should they do ahead of time? What information, if, it's always been the nominating committee reaching out to individuals that perhaps may be interested or they think might make a good chair. And then what information should that person provide? I don't disagree with what you're saying, but it's been a little hodgepodge or whatever additional word the last couple of years. So,
I think, it's like, in terms of a person not being able to nominate themselves, I don't see that as being a problem. A person nominated themselves because the outcome is a result of the majority of the group, so it's so, I think a person has a right to nominate themselves. The question is, will they get any votes?
yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think, I don't know which part you disagree with, but I don't know how you can vote on anybody not knowing anything about the person or whether they even want to run for chair or vice chair. So personally, I need to know why you want to be, and I will be asking that question anyway. Why do you want to be chair? Why do you want to be vice chair?
Yeah, I think you can do that during the meeting. I don't think I need to write a paragraph
Yeah.
why I
Well, then
want to
there's
be.
no need for a nominating committee.
Why is that?
If everything is gonna
If
be-
you ask me the question why I want to be the chairperson during the meeting, I don't have to write a little paragraph why I want to. I mean, that's.
Right, so
yeah.
there's no need for nominating committee, why don't we just do the nomination at the meeting?
Can I ask the question of, it's more maybe about the city process, so all of us, when somebody asked us if we were interested in being on this committee, in general, you know, we had to fill out an application and answer some questions, and that was submitted and that went before council. Is there any reason that the members of this committee couldn't have, we don't see those documents, that information, is there any reason?
That you could see the applications?
Yeah,
Well, I believe they're public.
I'm just kind of wondering, because that might answer, you know, we eventually learn more about each other as, you know, if we're on the committee for a while. But I'm wondering if that's a possibility. You
I'll
know,
have
if
to
you
check
wanna
with
learn a little
Kelly.
bit about an individual or their background or.
I believe they're in the city council packets from whatever month
That would have been.
that they
yeah.
did the appointments.
They are, that's.
But isn't
yes.
this a process that kind of takes care of itself? Because it's not like, you know, we're going to be nominating someone who just got on us, you know, something that we don't know anything about them. I think just attending the meetings and working together and communicating, I get a pretty good feel
Yeah.
for the group to
Yeah.
know whether I would want to vote for someone.
Right.
I can step in here too. I think I mentioned this at the last meeting, that the bylaws don't require a nominating committee.
Right.
It's not in the ordinance, so if you don't want to use it, you don't have to.
Yeah, we didn't have one 2 years ago, did we? When I first started, I thought we just did it, did we?
I think they've
No, we
always
just
used
did it
that nominating
right,
committee.
right at our meeting. We nominated people and then,
No, there
No,
was,
2 years ago, there was a nominating committee and neither member of the nominating committee came to the meeting.
oh, well, that's
And
always,
then-
then you guys just decided to. pick
And then we
people, huh?
just, yeah. So I think, I get where you're going. I'm wondering if, you know, what if we put together just some really short, just as a reference for this group, it doesn't have to go in like, okay, next time this comes around, this is how we want to approach it, and see if everybody agrees with that at the meeting, you know, like, just, it's not in any formal document, but it's more this is how we'd like to approach the nominating process next year.
Yeah. In the nominating committee, I think it takes some of the pressure off, you know. You're not just asking me right in front of the group and everything, and I gotta come up with a response.
Yeah.
Whereas with the nominating committee, you know, you contact me and you ask me, am I interested? And if I am, I say yes. If I'm not, I say no, you know.
Mhm. I do see that value, because if you're at a meeting and someone nominates an individual and that individual doesn't want to do it, that kind of puts them in a position of saying,
Like me last meeting, I didn't want to be the chair.
yeah, I'm with you.
Nope,
You
and
know.
look what happened here.
Yeah, yeah, that, I mean, so I think the discussion's fair, but that's where I do see the value in the nominating committee, is it's, then somebody is going out and reaching out to, you know, if you have 2 members, they have a discussion about, you know, who do we want to put up, you know?
Yeah. I think another
And who do we think? And then reach out to those individuals and reach out and say, are you, if it might be 1, it might be 2, are you interested?
Yeah.
You know, if the person says no, okay, we need to do this, but if that person says yes, then, you know.
I remember last time, you know, I was chairperson. It's like when the committee called me and asked me, I remember that the first thing I had to do is say, I have to check my calendar. And in the meeting, I don't have that option, you know.
Would everybody be open if we had just like some guidelines, brought it up at the next meeting and said, yeah, that makes sense. Talking a little bit about, you know.
Well, I mean, the point I'm trying to make is somebody's asked me, let's say I'm on the nominating committee, and I'm nominating someone, and somebody were to ask me, why did you nominate that person? Says, I don't know, I just like that guy. I want to be able to say something. So, well, they're interested, and they told me they're interested because they know Robert Rules of Orders, they know what the police does, they know how to run a meeting, they're impartial. I want to be able to say something intelligent, not just a beauty contest. And that would be, and if that is not done at the nominating committee level, then I will bring that up at our meeting and say, why do you want to be chair? Why do you want to be vice chair? I want to be able to know why I'm voting a particular way.
That could be part of the guidelines, which is the nominating committee still does their part, but then if the nominating committee says, okay, we're gonna nominate Ricky, we're nominating Ricky, you've talked to him and he said, yes, I'm interested. And then at the meeting, you do a little,
Why I want to be the chair?
Why I want to be the
That'll
chair.
never
That
happen.
kind of, yeah. Oh, you never know. But that would kind of do what you're speaking to. I'm just a little concerned about not having some kind of a discussion prior to the meeting, because then the meeting kind of becomes a little bit, might become a free-for-all. A little bit of discussions and people that may or may not be interested, if there's been no prior discussion with whether they are or they aren't, that kind of thing. If we just did some guidelines,
Who's going to write the guidelines?
I'll write them. I don't care.
Can I say one other
Yeah,
thing here? So I said that the nominating committee is not something that's required by the
Right.
bylaws or by the ordinance, but the bylaws do allow for subcommittees, and Article 9 of the bylaws say that the subcommittees, including composition, duties, and terms, are to be designated by the chairperson. So if you want something more than the authority of the chairperson to designate those things, then you need to make an amendment to the bylaws to provide something specific. And I'm not saying you have to do that now, that's just the process.
Right. I don't think we have to be that complicated. We can just merely say these are recommendations to the nominating committee. And the board has made the following recommendation to the nominating committee. They're not changes in any bylaws or anything, and the nominating committee can ignore them. But these are, I would think the nominating committee would abide by the philosophy of the board as a whole.
Yeah, assuming you decide to still use the nominating committee.
Yeah.
But
Right.
like I said, you don't
I
have
mean,
to.
would that be acceptable to the group if we just had some guidelines talking about what you're mentioning, but they're guidelines for the board? Because I do think that if, for example, somebody's never been on the nominating committee, and we said, hey, you're on it, you're it, and you don't know what to do, that might help that. It might help then we get to the meeting, having a little conversation that it's, okay, whether you prepare a speech or somebody does it off the cuff, kind of thing.
I tend to process things better if we're doing problem solving. Like if there's a problem and we have to come up with a solution to solve it or make it work better, then that's the way I run with it. So my question is, have we encountered any difficulties with the process the way it is?
Have we encountered anything? Yes, we have.
The last
could
2
you-
years. I'd say
Yeah.
the last 2 years of nominating.
For the
The
three,
nomination process has been challenging. We figured it out, but it's been challenging.
And what's challenging about it?
What's challenging about it is last year, the nominating committee didn't come to the meeting to talk about who they were nominating, and so we were sitting at the meeting and didn't have
Well,
any
actually,
nominees.
one of them was there.
Yeah, you're right, I'm sorry, yeah. And then, so then we were at the meeting, we were making nominations and we were kind of punting a little bit because we had some deadline issues.
But
There's a
what-
lot of new board members at that time that
Yeah.
hadn't been.
Yeah.
I think there were 3 of you
exactly.
that were pretty new.
Yeah,
And I think that was another situation where you didn't really want at that point in time to take the vice chair role, but you ended up doing it because.
I ended up doing it because
Yeah.
somebody needed to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then this year we had a little bit of a challenge.
One thing that Kelly mentioned to me is even with the nominating committee, you don't have to vote for the people that you nominate.
Right.
Right.
So I mean,
These
you
are
could still have the same situation where you're
Yeah.
off, at the meeting and.
So, I mean, is that acceptable, or
What is acceptable? What is on the
do we
table?
want some guidelines? Or do we want to, based on this discussion, when it comes around next year, just, when it's time to do a nominating committee, say, okay, just a real quick review. Here's what the nominating committee's up to, and here's what we're gonna do. And then just approach it like that. I mean, I don't care, I think that kind of accomplishes maybe what you're getting at, and
So you usually choose the nominating committee in September, so are you thinking if you were to go that route, you would want to discuss it in August?
August.
Before you choose a nominating committee, or you?
I would rather not even have a committee for this. I think we're all here and we can nominate who we want during our meeting. We don't need a committee. I don't need to call people up. When I was on the committee, I didn't know I had to call people to ask them to, that was part of the deal, I didn't know. And then I just think, because what happened this time was people just nominated. We're all here and they just nominated. And we got our chair and our vice chair. So it's the same thing. What do we need a committee for? We don't need a paragraph on people. I know yous well enough. You guys wouldn't be here if you didn't want to. It's volunteers. You know what I'm saying? It's all this.
Do you know the answer to the question? It says, why would you want to be chair?
Yeah, I do.
You
I didn't
don't-
want to be chair, and I said that. No, I do
Okay.
not want to be chair. So
Okay,
during the
but
regular
to the person
meeting,
who is accepting the nomination, do you know the answer? Let's say X wants
we can
accept
ask
the nomination.
ask them during
That's
the
it.
meeting.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I don't need a
that's why
paragraph to
that's why we
read that.
need to know,
Right, you
so
can
we
ask.
can vote intelligently.
Right, you can ask as many questions about whoever nominates somebody. Ask whatever you want. It's just part of the meeting instead of doing this committee and paragraphs, and I don't think it needs to be that involved. I think it can be.
it's not that complicated.
Right.
And it's
I
still
mean, we
like
could even make it even simpler just by saying that it's a responsibility when you're on the board. In your third year, you're vice chair. In your fourth year, you're chair.
Well, then that'd have to be part of the bylaws, right?
Yeah, that would require
That would
change.
require
Change,
change.
which
But
is
then you've got
fine.
the most experienced people.
Right,
And
and then you got people that have seen what's going on.
But I think the emphasis need to be put on getting a person that, number one, wants to do it, and number two, has the time to do it.
Right.
And I don't see a problem with it. We've been doing this for years and years and years, and then recently we just had a situation where something happened with the two people that were responsible for it. But that's obviously going to derail it. But look how many years we've done it, and it hasn't been a problem.
Yeah,
And I think that if people are going to need to state why they would want to be and how they think they're qualified to be, they need notice. That's not something you can just all of a sudden get asked and go, it's not a well thought out answer that just to get it sprung at the last minute.
I know that the question came up last time, what do other commissions do, and I can only speak for the Parks and Rec, but, I was not on it. I took minutes at it for 20 years, and they never had a nominating committee. It was at the meeting. Somebody just would speak up and say, I nominate so-and-so, and then that person right then and there, like you
Would say
said,
yes or no.
would say yes or no.
we know when that's going to be, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you can be, it's not really sprung on you out of nowhere. You can know
Right,
ahead of
and you
time,
can
oh,
call
this is the
people.
meeting, we're
And you
going to
This
do
is gonna
this.
come up if
And you
anybody
can call
mentions my
people.
name, I
Yeah.
can say yes or no.
Yeah, you can
I'm just
call
saying that
people
needs
on your
to
own.
be, it's never been before. No one's ever been asked that before.
That's fine. That's fine. Well, we can, when it comes around, there's no reason we can't do it that way. again, based on, we don't have to change anything, we can just change our process, you know, and say, you know, maybe it's a reminder that we're gonna be, you know, next meeting, new business is this, you know.
If we do it that way, I think basically, like you say, beforehand, just remind the group, like, hey, you know, it's coming up, and, you know, think about it and get your ducks together. That way nobody's gonna be surprised. We all come in prepared. If you ask me and I got conflicts, I say no. If I can feel comfortable with it, I say yes. But I don't think we need to create anything.
Yeah, that, either do I think just,
That works, all? For what you're, okay. Okay, we good with moving on? We got a lot of stuff on the agenda, so. All right, next item, the discussion of processes for complaints that are determined to be untrue.
Yeah, I brought this up because there have been times that we have all gone through a complaint and the police have had to go through the complaint. And in the very end, we watched the police badge cameras, and what the complaint said never happened. I'm thinking of the time, can I say this without naming a name?
You couldn't bring anything up
You
that
can't
happened
bring
in a
anything
complaint.
Okay.
specific, yeah, we're in open session.
Okay, well, I guess I'll have to do closed session when that comes to discuss that. And I'd be interested in what the chief has to say. I'm not going to ask you to say anything right now, but to think about it and let us know if you have any thoughts about it. Because, again, if it says on the bottom of the complaint that filing a false complaint is punishable by, and it has a state law and all that down. And even though that's on there, I don't think we've ever gone back and looked at that. And either it needs to be on there or not on there. We're just gonna wait until the very end and look at the tapes and see whether or not it's what actually happened or not. I mean, some you know, absolutely. But there are others that you don't know until the end. And what the complaint was never happened.
I think that would be under prosecutor's purview if they choose to.
Yeah.
I mean, the
we
complaint
would.
comes out as unsustained, and then it would be up to the county prosecutor to decide if they wanted to pursue any kind of criminal charges related to
I
that.
would be concerned about, I mean, one, it would require a number of changes, but I would also be concerned about any
Yeah.
concern from somebody's filing a complaint point that, oh, I could get in trouble for this, or what might happen to me if, you know,
Can I speak to that?
you know.
So it's on there. It is on, it's standard practice in almost every department that it does have that verbiage that describes the false report. And as Mandy pointed out, it would be something that we would take up with the county prosecutor, with the county attorney, whether or not. And I have had those conversations in the past. Typically it would be, I think mine and the county attorney's opinion, if they're accusing an officer of a crime, like, it's one thing if someone says the officer was mean or the officer may have violated this and that policy. Whether or not it's sustained or not, that's, I think most of us agree that might not be a false report. That could just be someone's difference of opinion. But if someone said the officer did this and it's like, you know, accuses the officer of committing a crime and that clearly didn't happen, those would be situations where it could be considered. It hasn't happened since I've been here, but I have, one of the barriers to that is the manner in which we receive the complaints. They're not anonymous, but they're close to, because as you guys well know, you've read the summaries, oftentimes we will never hear or speak to that person ever again. And then it would be, then we would have the burden to prove that they were the one who actually did file that complaint. They didn't come and swear to anything, or so that presents a problem. I can tell you when we get complaints through other means, not through the CPRB, you guys see the same video we see, and some of those immediately, you know, it's a 3-minute interaction. You're like, okay, that absolutely didn't happen. we close it out and it takes, an hour's worth of our time. CPRB process is much different because you guys get we have to redact the videos and then I have to give you that chief summary, but that's fine. And that's part of the process and that's fine. So could a person be prosecuted for it? Yes, but they're not going to be prosecuted on something that would be, it was my opinion versus someone else's opinion. And we're certainly cognizant of the fact that we don't want to have the chilling effect of threatening people with criminal action so they don't file complaints, because even although state code says we're not supposed to investigate anonymous complaints, I still feel like I have an obligation if it takes us 10 minutes to look at a video. Because say someone did file an anonymous complaint and it was legit, I don't want to just stick my head in the sand because, so we do look at those. We look at all complaints regardless. And then depending on how they come in, if they come in through this body, then it just requires a few more steps for us, but that's fine. But that's the nature of complaints. A lot of times, sometimes it's like, it's judgment call, but other times it's like, okay, that person was confused as to what happened or misremembers it, to be charitable.
That's
but,
kind.
yeah.
So do we even need to have that statement on the bottom of the complaint?
It's kind of standard
It's
language,
standard.
yeah.
Yeah, because it does give them fair warning. Like, hey, don't come in here and just make something up out of whole cloth, because even if that wasn't on there, it would still meet elements of that false report.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's us doing our due diligence, we don't want to discourage people from filing complaints, but we certainly want them to make sure they're filing true complaints or something that they believe to have been true.
But that shouldn't alter our process. I mean, we would do the same thing we do. The only thing is, if the person admitted it or something like that, then you would let us know, and we know that we don't have to mess with it,
But then the police department could be put in jeopardy for saying they didn't investigate it all the way through.
Oh, we're going to investigate it.
Yeah, they're going to
We're gonna
investigate it
investigate it.
regardless. Yeah.
And then, sometimes my summary might be considerably shorter, but I still feel like it's my obligation to this body to make sure you understand exactly what happened and what was going on.
I think another thing, I think this is why it's extremely important that our officers have their body cams functioning at all times. Because if, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and, we look at those. And usually you can see pretty quick what's going on.
I can tell you how much of a game changer that is. My former agency, a 1,200-person department, they didn't have them. So when someone would go to internal affairs, it would be a he said, she said almost all the time. They had the car videos, but not, someone was in someone's house or something. And almost all of those complaints were, we got to talk to witnesses and this and that. Now we don't have to do that near as much because we can just watch exactly what happened. In fact, you guys have seen the summaries. Most of the time we don't even need to speak to the officer to interview them as to what happened. We may speak to them afterwards, but to interview them as to what happened because we can just watch it and hear it. So that is an absolute game changer, and that's why that policy is very important.
I think when we had the discussion of making the complaint process available to be filed online, we talked about requiring somebody to check the box that says they understand what filing a false report means before they can sign the complaint. Did that happen?
I don't know that.
You have to go back and look.
Yeah, it probably doesn't show up on the complaint itself, does it? Let's see here.
The complaint just says signature box, and it says above it, I certify to the best of my knowledge the statements on this form are true. But I talked about whether we should have them check a box before they can even sign it.
I will have to check on that. I don't know.
That would be a good idea. Thank you, Chief.
Okay, next item, discussion of the CPRB meeting flow and processes. Jessica?
Yeah, so
You're up.
I brought that up because there seems to be a lot of confusion about like Robert's Rules of Order and exactly the flow of the meetings and like confusion of like when we motion things versus like everything else. So I don't know if we could just have a discussion about that or if we could have printouts of like flow sheets or something to help everyone understand what's going on. Just because it seems a little bit chaotic at times, just from my brief time here so far.
Sure, no, it's a good question. I think we could, perhaps there's a reference in executive session, I think, for us to talk about something related to that would help maybe that process a little bit. Question for me, because I don't know the answer. When you started, did you have somebody sit down with you and go through the packet and kind of talk about the process? And
We went through, like I was
do
given
that?
the packets.
Nobody did it for me.
Nobody did it for me.
But
You didn't,
the
didn't
only,
you sit down with Kelly?
No?
She did it, you and Stuart, she did it virtually. Sorry, I told
No,
her.
I don't remember doing it virtually.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like we went through, but most of my knowledge is coming from my workplace and how meetings are ran there. So I wouldn't say that like it's really here that's teaching me.
yeah, I know that at one point in time, that's why I asked, and you guys didn't do it with me when I came back to the board, because you've already been here, you know. That kind of happened. At one point in time, that was an automatic for new members, that one of the here's a new member, and it was the chair. A lot of times would sit down with the new member and would go through the packet from the city and just talk about the meetings and talk about some of the things, of the highlights of how things worked. So that was a good question, because it didn't happen with me, but I couldn't reference that because of, my familiarity, so.
It didn't happen with me, and when I was chair, I offered to sit down with new people, and I guess Kelly decided she'd do it. Was that?
Did we, I don't know if we did we have anybody new during your,
Her time as chair?
yeah, but,
When I started, it was during the height of the pandemic, so the meetings were only on Zoom. And I did have a brief Zoom orientation, but it wasn't with the chair or city staff. It was with the person I was replacing. So it seemed like their system then was that the outgoing person would meet with the incoming person.
Yeah,
wow.
because someone named, I think Mildred, or somebody whose name
These
started
are all
with the
before my
name
time.
So maybe one of the
was the
things that
outgoing chair when I came on.
maybe one of the things that would help, and in open session, we can't talk about and reference, there's something in closed session, something that we're gonna talk about.
Yeah, I just don't know if, we can talk about it. I just don't know if the Robert's rules and such are part of,
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, and my experience with that is, whether or not the meeting goes smoothly depends upon how much experience the chair or the individual had that's conducting the meetings. If you go back and look at the last 3 years, you'll see different styles, but we managed to stumble and get through the meeting with corrections from our attorney or whatever is appropriate.
yeah, so
Yeah, I could make a suggestion as pertaining to our last discussion on the nominating committee, that would be the chair, the job of the chair or the vice chair to meet with the nominee, with no person joining the board, and see whether there are any questions, or give them some background on how we proceed, including Robert's Rules of Order that we follow, and then have the person who's about to join ask questions if they have any. It's possible that they've attended several of our meetings, I think you have before, but that would be, I think, the job of the chair or the vice chair, or nominating, or the chair nominating someone to do that.
And I think just from my observations is I've noticed it
Go
with
ahead.
people who've been here a while as well. I
Yeah.
don't think it's just that I'm new, to be perfectly honest. And my workplace where I work, that's this is how all of our meetings are ran. And so just from my viewpoint, like this is a city board, like it should be like, I don't know. It doesn't appear as professional if it's a bit chaotic, from my opinion.
But
Yeah,
that's
I would say that we have a tendency sometimes to go down rabbit holes a little bit, and I don't think it's any ill intent on anybody's part.
No.
But, you know, that's one thing that I think we could all, you know, all of us, myself included, I agree with you, do a better job on is, you know, we do need to, you know, follow the agenda and try to stay to the agenda as much as possible. And, you know, some of us are not, some of us are used to doing that and some of us are not. So I do think that's a challenge, but I do agree, because sometimes it's like, whoa, how do we get over there? You know,
Yeah,
that
and
kind
like-
of thing.
I think, yeah, if there were just some brief resources that could help give everyone a better understanding of the process, I think that would be beneficial.
And I think you're gonna usually find a difference between professional or employment board and a volunteer board. You know, and I think being a volunteer board, you know, we're fairly doomed.
Well, I have no problem if, I don't know that would happen. If we have a new member, I'm more than happy to sit down with a new member and go through the packet and talk through some things, and, you know, would offer that even to, you've been here a couple months, but if there's any benefit that you would, you know, gain from that, I'd be glad to do it with you as well. And, you know, perhaps the, you know, just kind of talking through it helps that a little bit. You know, sometimes we do wind up getting kind of long and we get kind of tied up on something, and we, like tonight, we have a lot of big important things, but a lot to cover, so.
I'm happy to join those meetings too. I've never been asked to do that, but I'm happy to do it if that's what the board wants.
Okay.
It sounds to me like Jessica's asking more also for like a visual,
Yes.
like something with
I-
a graph
yeah.
and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I'm a visual learner for sure, and so, but like, I keep mentioning my workplace, but we use Teams channels. I am in charge of like interns. I'm a very like visual person. So I think just keeping in mind too, like how different people learn is beneficial.
Just, yeah, maybe adding to every packet. I mean, is like either finding, I don't know if the city already has a resource like that, or is that?
Is that in the new packets for?
I don't know that it is.
It just doesn't look like that.
But that's the complaint process, right?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
complaint
Yeah.
process.
As if like this could be included, and then also like the Robert's Rules of Order, like literally the flow, like if there's a flow. Does that make
I don't
sense?
know about that. I mean, Robert's rule of order is
Yeah.
large volume.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Or
there.
if there's like a.
Are you thinking like, even as simple as when is it appropriate to make a motion?
Yes,
When is
literally
it
just that
appropriate
simple.
to,
Right.
you know,
Yes.
what do you say on that? You know, when you just get the number of you know, when you just ask for the
Oh, when
ayes.
you
and
have to do a roll call versus, you know, a majority vote. just-
that.
Yeah. Literally like anything as simple as if there's anything.
I'm sure a resource has probably been created by someone sometime, because Robert's Rules of Order is really commonly used. I would be willing to volunteer to try to find something and send it to you, and then we can all look at it in the next meeting and see if that looks like something we want to start including in every packet.
Robert's Rules of Order are online, so you can take a look at them.
Yeah.
If you feel like you want to make a motion on something, make the motion. If it's not appropriate, the chair will tell you it's not germane. So and then we also have legal counsel here and to advise you on how you might be more successful in making that particular motion.
Yeah. think just for me, I feel more comfortable if I'm actually confident in what I'm doing rather than have to ask legal counsel every single time I need something.
Well,
If that
I
makes
mean,
sense.
you can look at Robert's
Is that
Rules of Order
fair
online.
to say?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. And I think what you proposed, Amanda, is great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'll do
mean,
that.
Robert's Rules of Order is a huge volume. It's not easy to read. It's not easy to understand.
Yeah. And like Orville
So-
said, like it is a volunteer
But
board.
there's
Like not
some-
everyone who comes on is
I bet
like,
there's
There's some small
Yeah.
version of it.
there's probably
And
a
that's true.
5-minute
Like for the
Google,
majors.
Yeah.
something we
Yeah.
can
Which is what-
That's
do
kind of what Amanda was
that we could
proposing.
include
Make it
for
more
everybody.
simple.
And make it for the simple, will you? Just nice and easy.
Yeah, I'm just gonna look for like a
Kinda
one
this.
page,
This is
yeah.
pretty nice.
I think, we have a tendency to start off going down the right direction, and then something will come up and we end up going in the wrong direction. But the good thing about it is we always discover and work our way back to where we're supposed to be.
All right.
Okay, we good?
Yep.
Last one is discussion of legal fees. I asked this to be on there. Sorry, Pat.
Do I need to step out?
No, you don't need to step out for this portion.
I don't think we should have it.
I object.
You can't.
How did that item get on there?
I asked that to be put on here just because one of the things the chair does is the city receives an invoice from for Pat's legal services from his law firm. And I thought it was just, I kind of, when I was looking at it, I had a couple specific questions, which is not appropriate to discuss here. But it caused me to think about, here comes this invoice for this current month. And I thought, I wonder if anybody is at the meetings ever talked about the fact that we love you, Pat, but you're not free, kind of expensive. So things like the importance of, if Pat needs to be involved and it's appropriate, that's fine. But if he reviews a document for us, that costs us money. If it's, typically you don't review the actual footage and look at all the information, but if we have a question and ask you to do that, and I know that's happened, there's additional fees for that. So
Yeah.
Pat is not, a phone call is a phone call to ask a question as well. So if it's appropriate, that's one thing, but just making sure that everybody know that Pat is not a volunteer. And, just to be, if somebody on the committee feels like they have a question or need that, we just want to make sure that we're handling that appropriately.
Well, and I would suggest in terms of communicating, I'm hoping that individuals aren't calling Pat because we're being charged for it. I think the appropriate thing is for the group to discuss it, and if there's some concern or lack of knowledge, then we call Pat.
Or it goes through the city. It might go, if a board member has a question in between meetings, it goes to Tammy, and Tammy
I
might be
go
able
to
to
Kelly,
answer.
and then Kelly says, ask Pat.
Yeah, she might go to, there might be an answer there short of, again, not just picking up the phone, and we don't want to do that, or we want to be appropriate if we do have to have those kind of conversations. So that's the only reason I put it on there, is it just kind of caused me to think about that, and let's see if we can put it on the agenda, so. Okay, item number 4, old business. Only thing we can discuss was old business, and there is nothing here. So we're gonna move on to number 5. Number 5, public comments not on the agenda. So,
I'm curious. I haven't seen this setup before. Is this new?
Relatively, yeah.
It was originally all all in person. And then during the pandemic, all the meetings were moved to Zoom. After the height of the pandemic, when the order from the governor that said that public meetings did not have to be in person because of the pandemic expired, we lost the Zoom access and moved back to in-person only. But we recently brought Zoom back to do hybrid meetings for accessibility purposes, and I think this is our third or fourth.
We had more than that.
It's been more
Yeah.
than four.
Okay.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. Just within the last handful of months, we brought the hybrid meetings.
Well, is this available to the public to watch?
Yeah.
And to participate. You can log in on Zoom, you can ask questions over Zoom.
So if I wanted to look at older meetings on YouTube, is that possible?
Yeah.
Yes, you can also look at them, all of the meetings, commission meetings, council are on City Channel 4. So if you were just even to Google City Channel 4, you can see a whole screen of meetings. And you can click on that. It takes a few days for, like the one tonight, it'll take a few days for it to be on City Channel 4, but I believe you can watch it on YouTube in the meantime.
And they have library. If you don't see it current, there's a library for the city. And you can go down to that and find past ones.
Thank you. I was unaware of that, and I'll look into that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did we ever
Board information.
do a press release about creating the hybrid meetings?
Well, I asked for one.
Okay.
Because it was it was at the same month that we asked for the press release for the formal, or for the forum. And then I also asked,
Double check.
Because I saw the forum article,
Yeah.
and that was good.
yeah, I'll have to read.
Because
I'll bring that up
I would
again.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it doesn't do so much good if people don't know that they can join this way.
So the agendas are published online.
That I know.
It looks like this and has the information here with the links in it.
So the Zoom link
So you
is
can-
on the top of the agenda.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oops,
And I think right now it's just, you can watch all past meetings online, but I think right now it's just City Council, CPRB, and TRC that have the hybrid meetings where you can actually participate online.
If there happens to be a city council meeting on the same night as ours, then we don't have that capability to, ask questions and such.
Okay, board information. Anything from the board? Staff information? No staff information. Number 8, tentative meeting schedule and future agendas. There you go. Which one are you not available for?
Just wanted to mention I won't be able to attend the December 12th meeting.
Okay. I will not be available for the March 12th meeting. There you go, Ricky.
Yep, good. I probably won't be either.
That's my last meeting, by the
Is
way.
that your last
That's your
meeting?
last meeting?
Oh, well, I'll be there for
I
that.
could
You should be
Zoom
there.
from my location.
You don't have to do that. It's been pretty easy with nobody coming on, but no, I'm just kidding.
Okay, so everybody else basically look okay?
Yeah.
Are we good with not moving any meetings, just for you for one meeting, me for one meeting? We'll just leave them as
We
is?
should just leave them,
Yeah.
don't you
Okay.
think?
Yep.
Okay, we don't need to change any meetings. I need a motion to adjourn to executive session.
I so move.
Second.
Oh,
Sorry.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Anybody opposed?
this YouTube channel.
Move to accept the report for 2307 and submit to City Council.
You made a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, need a motion to accept 2307.
Okay.
The second?
Oh, I'm sorry. You were supposed
We need,
You need a
roll call.
vote.
Yeah, I don't have it on here, do I? So is this an all in favor or is this a roll call? Because I don't have, this is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about, whether we need an all in favor or a roll call. You got all in favor on last month.
Okay, because that's what I was,
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay,
I move to accept 2308 was the other one we did? Right?
I'll second.
2308?
Yep. And forward on to city council as is.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, 2309. I'll make a motion to accept 2309.
As amended.
Pardon?
As amended.
As amended, yep. I
I'll
could
second.
tell you were getting ready to say something, so I stopped. 'Cause
I'll second that then.
Okay, you seconded, okay?
So as amended, even though we, yes. Never mind.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, with this one, we're gonna skip. Yeah. We're not gonna, that one we're not doing because everybody hasn't watched the video, and that's the one we're moving to the next meeting. So, need a motion to summarily dismiss complaint 2314.
So moved.
So, you need a second? I'll second. You ready? That's
Oh,
fine.
oh, I think Orville got it.
That one needs a roll call. You got it.
Downing,
Yes.
Hobart, Jensen,
Yes.
McConnell,
Yes.
Meckus,
Yes.
Remington,
Yes.
Townsend.
Yeah.
We need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second the move.
All in favor, anybody opposed?
Aye.